In 1953, it was around Christmas time, my father brought me home a few Lionel trains. And then we decided to build a little layout. We got a 4x8 piece of plywood. There was a little hobby shop in our neighborhood on Rogers Park. I was buying every week. I'd go and buy a little Plasticville house. And I was doing my thing with Plasticville, and my little soldiers, my lead soldiers were on one side. And then I had little people that, that they had sold in the hobby shop. And I created a little town. And as I got gifts from people, my aunts and my mother had 8 sisters. When it was my birthday, when I was 9 and 10, I'd always get another train, a car or something, or an accessory. And I had my trains up till I was probably about 14 years old. My mother wanted to give everything away, like the baseball cards, and I said, no, not my trains, and we wrapped them all up in newspaper at that time. We didn't have bubble wrap and all this fancy stuff, and we put the trains away for like about 10 years. 1980, I bought a home. I just married a couple of years, bought a home in the suburbs, and the first thing I wanted to do was build a train table. Built my little train set, and instead of 4x8 now, it was like 12x6. And basically did the same thing, my little houses, my Plasticville, all the trains. And I made the cutest little layout until my wife said, we need a live-in maid. And the live-in maid needed the room that I had delegated to being my Lionel train room that I waited 15 years to get, or 20 years to get. And we took everything down.
Our oldest son is 33, and when we had our home in the suburbs, Stephen made a table maybe a third of the size, and he got up on the table and started stomping around thinking he was a giant. So I said, this is, we have to do something, and I bubble wrapped every single train, car, light post, everything was bubble wrapped and put away because, they weren't into the trains and I didn't want anything to break.
It was put away from 1980 till about 2004 when we bought this house that we're in right now, and we brought it all up here, and I said, one day I'm going to finish the project. Last year, my wife said, you're never going to build this table. You're never going to have the strength and energy. And who are you kidding? Why don't you talk to the guys at the toy train store? I met Tom McComas, and he took me and I saw the layouts where he does all his work. And I said, do you think we could build one of those for me? And he said, no problem.
It really became, a labor of love, the whole thing. I was just as much interested. You go to these, train fairs, the shows, and you just become so enthralled in the towns and the people. And
the first engine was the Santa Fe. And that was my favorite toy. I mean, that thing, I used to call it the bomber. It used to just pull trains, and I used to have some friends come over to my house that also would bring their trains over, and we used to put them in tug-of-wars, and saying my old Santa Fe would pull the other guy's train. And she's been through a lot, and she's running beautiful now. So 1953, it's what, 47, 55 years old. Huh? I was like a Sox fan and a Cub fan. I was a Lionel guy. They don't look right, the third rail, that's ridiculous, da-da-da-da-da. And I said, I'll put up my Lionels against your American Flyer anytime. I'm a Lionel guy. It was a part of Americana. It was like looking at big Oldsmobiles and Buicks. It was a time when our country built these solid toys. First of all, I loved trains. I had gone on a couple of train trips myself, and I loved what the railroad was all about. I was always enthused watching trains go by. I guess it's just a great way to open up the door of your imagination and build these little villages and towns. And I mean, these toys, I think, are built better than they're unbelievable. At least that my little Santa Fe engine is still running 55 years later. That thing fell off my train table when I was a kid several times, hit the concrete floor in our basement, and still running and hauling train cars around the track. Have my little martini, and I play with the trains, watch them go around, watch the smoke come out, listen to the horns. I play my little bleacher music. Now I've got these two new features, the drive-in and the car wash. I'm a restaurateur and bar owner. Been doing that for 45 years. I've got a bar called Sluggers across the street of Wrigley Field. I've got my boys helping me out there. They'd like to expand and do some more with our concept. I enjoy what I do, and I've got a lot of free time. And I think this winter I'm going to go to some train auctions. I opened up Sluggers in 1984. That was the year the Cubs had won. Jody Davis, Keith Moreland, Sutcliffe, Rhino, Ron Say. And I've watched the ups and downs, and it's been exciting, and these Cub fans are just unbelievable. I mean, they take the punishment, but they keep coming back. Well, I wanted to have a little industrial area. I wanted to have a little village. I had these accessories that I saved all these years, the coal loaders and the little milk car, which was one of the great ones, and the horses and the cattle. And I wanted to make a layout that had a few little areas, but I always wanted an elevated section. And now I have my elevated section, and we dedicated it to Wrigley Field with McDonald's, a miniature Sluggers, the ballpark, and a little parking lot all around McDonald's. And that's my little, I feel like I'm at work when I watch that. I'm going to Sluggers. And the rest of the layout is just the imaginary village. That wouldn't be a bad place to live. It came out much better than I ever thought it would. The thing that is absolutely phenomenal is the control panel here. I think I got a 747 or something going. I'm just getting acquainted with it. I'm learning about my switches. And once in a while I'll go to shut off one track and I don't know how to turn it on, off. But I'm getting into it now. I'm learning how to drive it.
I was more interested in the residential. Stephen was getting involved in the industrial. And now when I drive my own car and you're on the road, you almost envision yourself on a train table. You know what I mean? It's amazing. But the town and the park, and it's just fabulous. And like I said, every time I come up here, and I come up here by myself and run the trains, I see something new every time. It's just a marvelous thing. I just love it. Jaw-dropping. Jaw-dropping. We come up and you'll see the trains, and I don't think anybody really envisions anything like this. This is beyond our expectations. I mean, we actually saw tables like this, you know, with you and shows, but to actually own one that we can come up here anytime, it's wonderful. It's just fabulous. Now we just need grandchildren. I like the passenger cars. When I was a child, we took a trip across from Chicago to Los Angeles on that train. So that's always fun.
And I love it. It's phenomenal, much more than I ever thought I'd have. Here's my masterpiece.
UP 3983, do you copy? UP 3983 here. Copy that. Please start up and stand by for track orders. 3983 is ready to move. Out.